All right, so we've got this case, and it's got us kind of puzzled.
Yeah, this one's a head-scratcher for sure.
They're talking about two sisters, right? Brittany Henry and Chenier Richmond.
Right.
And they're going up against, well, not just one, but three, count them, three insurance companies. Assurant, ABIG, and Geico.
Wow. That's a lot of firepower.
It all started with a flood in their apartment.
Sounds like a nightmare.
But get this, they're also claiming the judge, in their case, Judge Whitten, might not be playing fair.
So there's a whole other layer to this.
Yeah, it's like something's off, you know.
Definitely raises some red flags.
They're alleging that these companies, these insurance companies, improperly canceled their renter's insurance, which basically left them with nothing when the flood hit.
And to make matters worse, they filed an ethics complaint against the judge, alleging, well, a pattern of behavior that seems to kind of benefit the insurance companies.
And the kicker.
The Judicial Ethics Commission decided not to investigate.
That's what's got us scratching our heads. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, definitely suspicious.
So let's rewind a bit, okay? Back to the flood itself. Chenier, one of the sisters, she described coming home from a birthday celebration to find her entire apartment underwater.
Oh, man, talk about a ruined birthday.
Yeah, not exactly the kind of surprise you want.
Absolutely devastating, both emotionally and financially. I mean, all their belongings damaged. The flood even affected the neighbors.
So, from a legal standpoint, what are we looking at here? Did the insurance companies actually mess up, legally speaking?
The big question is whether they violated their contract by not giving proper cancellation notice. That's what the sisters are claiming.
Okay, so the sisters are saying they specifically chose not to get email notifications. They wanted everything sent by mail.
Yeah.
To their correct address.
Right, and they even have their evidence of insurance document that clearly shows the right address.
So where does Arizona law come into play here?
Well, Arizona law is pretty clear on this. ARS 2016-54 requires insurance companies to give people timely notice of cancellation. You know, it's there to protect people from suddenly finding themselves without coverage.
Makes sense. So the sisters believe this law is on their side. And they've actually gathered some pretty interesting evidence.
Oh, really?
They've got returned mail from the post office showing that the notices were sent to the wrong address.
Okay.
Then there are these communications they had with Assurant agents confirming that, yep, they had the wrong address on file.
That's not good.
And get this, there are even inconsistencies in the company's own statements. Like, things just don't add up.
It definitely raises the question, if the insurance companies knew the notices weren't getting delivered, did they actually do what they were legally required to do? Did they take further action?
Right, because it seems like they just ignored the problem.
And that could be a big problem for them.
Now, let's talk about this ethics complaint against Judge Whitten. The sisters are saying that several of his actions were just plain suspicious. For example, he made this rule that any motion not addressed within 10 days would be considered abandoned.
10 days?
Yeah, 10 days.
That's pretty quick.
And that's where it gets tricky, because the Arizona Constitution says motions have to be addressed within 60 days.
Ah, so there's a conflict there, a big one.
Right, and if what the sisters are saying is true, it makes you wonder if Judge Whitten was even following the basic legal framework.
That's a serious accusation. It raises questions about his competence and whether he was actually upholding the law.
There's more. The sisters also pointed out that Judge Whitten struck down their motion for partial summary judgment because of, get this, formatting issues.
Formatting issues.
Yeah, they're claiming they followed Rule 56 correctly, but he tossed it out anyway.
Well, if that's the case, it definitely raises concerns about whether their motion was given proper consideration, regardless of any minor formatting issues. Was there an attempt to dismiss it unfairly?
And that's the question, isn't it? Was he intentionally trying to throw their case out the window?
It's hard to say for sure, but it certainly raises suspicions.
But here's the allegation that really gets to me. The sisters claim that Judge Whitten misled their lawyer about some key evidence. He said it was missing from the record, but the sisters insist it was actually included in previous documents.
That's a serious accusation. If it's true, it really undermines the idea of a transparent judicial process, which is, essential for public trust in the legal system.
Absolutely. It's like he was trying to hide something. And then, to top it all off, Judge Whitten ruled in favor of the insurance companies before the sisters even had a chance to submit a revised motion, even though he had ordered them to do so.
So he basically went back on his own word.
It seems that way.
That's not just a procedural error. It suggests a disregard for the court's own timeline and a potential violation of their right to a fair hearing.
So if we look at all of these actions together, It does seem like there's a pattern emerging here.
It does, doesn't it?
It makes you wonder, are these actions an attempt to shield the insurance companies from having to answer for their actions? Or could all of this just be a series of unfortunate, procedural errors?
And the big question, why did the Judicial Ethics Commission refuse to even investigate?
Yeah, that's the real mystery here.
It's baffling, to say the least. It's like they didn't even want to look into it.
Right. It's like, okay, they presented all this evidence, all these concerns, and the commission just went, nope, not interested.
It really makes you think, what's the point of having an ethics commission if they're not going to actually, investigate ethical concerns?
Exactly. Like, what are their standards? What makes them decide, okay, this complaint is worth looking into, but this one isn't?
It just doesn't seem very transparent, does it?
Not at all. And what kind of message does that send, to other people who might have legitimate concerns about a judge's behavior?
It could definitely discourage people from coming forward. I mean, if you think your complaint is just going to be ignored, why bother?
Right. And that's a big problem because it erodes public trust in the entire legal system. If people don't believe that there's a way to address judicial misconduct, well, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it's like the whole system loses legitimacy. People start to think, what's the point? The judges can do whatever they want and no one's going to hold them accountable.
So let's shift gears for a minute and talk about the sisters' experience with the insurance companies themselves. Okay, so according to Shanir's affidavit, it all started with a billing issue.
Okay, so what happened?
They had to change their bank account information because there was some fraud going on. And then the insurance companies, they kept trying to take payments from the old closed account.
Oh, it's frustrating. But, I mean, that kind of stuff happens, right? The question is, did the insurance companies try to fix the problem? Did they reach out to the sisters?
Well, that's the thing. The sisters say they specifically opted out of email notifications. They wanted all communication sent by mail to their current address, the one they provided when they applied for the policy.
Okay, makes sense. So if the insurance companies sent cancellation notices to an old address, even though they had the right one on file, then yeah, that raises questions about their procedures. It could even be considered negligence.
And here's where it gets even weirder. Shanir says the notices sent to their old address, they were returned as undeliverable. Returned to sender, no such person at this address.
Okay, so the insurance companies knew the notices weren't being delivered.
Exactly. But they went ahead and canceled the policy anyway. They didn't try to contact the sisters again. They just canceled it.
That seems like a pretty clear violation of Arizona law. That law we talked about, ARS Section 20-1654, it requires timely notice of cancellation.
It does seem like they just completely disregarded that law.
And if they knew the notices weren't being delivered, they were legally obligated to take further action, like at least try to reach the sisters by phone or something.
And there's more.
Uh-huh.
When the sisters finally did get in touch with Assurant about the cancellation, the agents, well, they didn't seem to know anything about the returned mail.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like things were just not adding up. At first, the agent said, oh, yeah, sure, we can reinstate the policy. But then later, they said, nope, sorry, can't do it.
Those inconsistent responses are definitely a red flag. It suggests that there was either a lack of communication within Assurant or they were intentionally being evasive.
Right. It's hard to tell if it was just incompetence or something more deliberate.
Either way, it doesn't look good for Assurant.
And then there's this whole other layer to the insurance situation. The sisters are saying that Assurant might have been more than just an agency.
More than just an agency.
Yeah, they're saying that Assurant might have actually been acting as the insurer, not ABA.
Okay, so what makes them think that?
Well, they pointed to a bunch of interactions they had, some documents they received, and even some communications that seemed to suggest that Assurant was the one calling the shots.
That's interesting. Why would Assurant try to downplay their role in this?
That's what we're trying to figure out. Shanir mentioned that when they first got the policy, the welcome documents only talked about Assurant, no mention of AB at all.
That is odd.
And then all of their interactions, asking questions about the policy, dealing with the cancellation, it was always with people who said they worked for Assurant.
So it definitely seemed like Assurant was the one running the show. It's not typical for an agency to be that front and center if they're just representing another company.
And get this, try finding AB online. They don't seem to have a website, no easily accessible contact information, nothing. Assurant, on the other hand, they're all over the place.
That's definitely suspicious. It almost sounds like Abby might be a shell company, just a front for Assurant.
Exactly. And if that's the case, then who is really responsible for the policy and the cancellation? Was it Assurant all along?
It's like a puzzle where all the pieces seem to point in the same direction.
And to add to the confusion, remember how the sisters filed that ethics complaint against Judge Whitten?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, there's an interesting twist there, too. The sisters' lawyer, he was focused on the legal arguments of their claim. But Chenier and Brittany, they took it upon themselves to file that ethics complaint.
So they were taking a more proactive approach. I kind of admire that.
Me too. It shows how determined they were to ensure fairness. They weren't just going to sit back and let things happen.
It also highlights how important self-advocacy is within the legal system. The sisters felt that something wasn't right, and they took action to address it, even if it meant going beyond what their lawyer was focused on.
It's like they saw a gap in the system and decided to fill it themselves.
And sometimes that's what it takes. Lawyers are trained to focus on the law. But sometimes clients perceive things that fall outside of that scope, like ethical breaches or biases.
Exactly. And this situation really emphasizes the need for good communication between lawyers and their clients. While the lawyer was building the legal case, the sisters felt it was crucial to address what they saw as ethical issues with the judge's actions, even if those concerns weren't directly related to the legal strategy.
It's a good reminder that the law isn't just about, cold hard facts and precedents. It's also about principles of fairness and impartiality and ethical conduct.
And if people feel like those principles are being violated, they have every right to speak up and demand accountability.
Absolutely. Silence in the face of injustice is never the answer.
And the fact that the Judicial Ethics Commission chose to ignore the sisters' complaint, well, that just adds another layer of complexity to this whole issue of access to justice. If people feel like their concerns about potential misconduct are just going to be swept under the rug, it shakes their faith in the system's ability to protect their rights.
And that's a dangerous precedent to set. If people lose faith in the system, then what do we have left?
It's almost like the sisters are caught in this vicious cycle, right? They encountered what they believe was misconduct within the judicial system, but the very system designed to address those issues is the one that failed to respond.
It's a classic catch-22. And unfortunately, it's something that happens far too often.
So we've got this detailed ethics complaint with clear examples of potential judicial canon violations. And the commission just chose not to investigate. It's really baffling.
It is. And it really raises questions about the effectiveness of the entire judicial oversight process. Is it truly designed to ensure accountability and maintain public trust, or is it just a way to protect judges from scrutiny?
Right, because if they're not going to take action when there's clear evidence of potential misconduct, what message does that send?
It sends a message that those in power are above the law and that the system is rigged in their favor. And that's a very dangerous message, not just for the individuals involved in this particular case, but for society as a whole.
Absolutely. The sisters' allegations, if they're true, point to a pattern of behavior that could undermine the integrity of the judicial process. And their efforts to shine a light on these issues through the ethics complaint, well, it really highlights the need for transparency and accountability, especially when it comes to those in positions of power.
Exactly. We need to hold judges to the same standards as everyone else. No one is above the law.
So where does this leave the sisters? I mean, they presented what seems like a really strong case, but they're up against a system that seems to be protecting its own. What recourse do they have? What can they do if the Judicial Ethics Commission continues to just ignore their concerns?
That's the big question, isn't it? And unfortunately, it's not an easy one to answer. We'll explore some potential avenues for the sisters in the final part of our deep dive. But one thing's for sure, this case has far-reaching implications, not just for the sisters, but for the entire legal system and the people it's supposed to serve.
It's like they're being punished for doing the right thing. For trying to hold a judge accountable. It just doesn't seem right.
It really doesn't. And it raises some serious questions about the whole system of judicial oversight. Like, is it actually working? Is it actually protecting the public? Or is it more about protecting judges, even when they might be doing something wrong?
Yeah, it almost feels like they're more concerned with protecting the image of the judiciary than they are with actually ensuring justice.
It's a dangerous path to go down. Because if people lose faith in the system, if they start to believe that judges are above the law, then the whole system starts to crumble.
So what can the sisters do? I mean, it seems like they've hit a brick wall, the commission won't investigate, and they're up against some powerful entities.
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure. There are a few options they could explore, but none of them are easy or guaranteed to work. Like, they could try to appeal the commission's decision, but that's often a long and complicated process, and it's not always successful.
And what about suing the commission itself? Is that even possible?
It's possible, but it would be a very difficult legal battle. They would have to prove that the commission acted improperly, that they had a duty to investigate, and that they failed to do so. It's not an easy case to make.
So basically, the sisters are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They've encountered what appears to be misconduct, but the very system designed to address that misconduct is the one that's failing them.
It's a frustrating situation, and it highlights a real problem with how we hold judges accountable. We need a system that's transparent, that's fair, and that actually works to protect the public.
And this isn't just about the sisters, right? This is about everyone who might have a case before Judge Whitten or any other judge who might be acting improperly.
Absolutely. This case has implications that go far beyond these two individuals. It's about the integrity of the entire legal system.
So what can we do as individuals, as a society? How can we ensure that situations like this don't keep happening?
I think it starts with awareness. We need to be aware of the potential for misconduct within the judicial system, and we need to be willing to speak out when we see it. We can't just assume that judges are always going to act ethically or that the system will always correct itself.
And we need to support those who are brave enough to speak out, even when it's difficult.
Exactly. People like the Henry sisters who are willing to stand up and say, hey, this isn't right. They need our support.
Because ultimately, this is about more than just one case or one judge. It's about ensuring that justice is truly served. For everyone.
And that everyone has equal access to that justice, regardless of who they are or who they're up against.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, and it's clear that the sisters' case raises some serious concerns about potential misconduct, not just within the insurance industry, but within the judicial system as well. And while we don't have all the answers, I think this case is a powerful reminder that we can't just sit back and assume that the system will always work as it should. We need to be vigilant. We need to hold those in power accountable, and we need to keep fighting for a more just and equitable society.
Well said. The pursuit of justice is an ongoing journey, and it requires all of us to be engaged and to demand better from our institutions.